Ever spent hours tweaking your streaming settings, trying to find that perfect balance?
Yeah.
Where you're not sacrificing all your frames just to share the action with your viewers?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a struggle.
It's the tough one.
So today we're diving deep into a debate that's got the gaming community fired up.
Right.
GTX 1080 Ti versus the RTX 2070.
Oh.
When it comes to streaming and pure gaming performance, which GPU reigns supreme?
Ooh. Spicy.
Right. We've been digging through forums, articles, you name it, and let me tell you, people have some strong opinions on this one.
Oh, I bet they do.
But don't worry, you don't have to navigate this tech battle royale alone, because luckily we have an expert
Yeah.
here to break it all down for us.
Happy to help clear the fog.
It?
So what are we thinking? Like, what's the main thing people are looking for in a GPU when they want to stream?
So a lot of our sources seem to agree that the RTX 27, that's the streaming king, apparently.
Okay.
But before we go handing out any crowns,
Yeah.
can you tell us what makes a GPU good for streaming in the first place?
Yeah, totally. So, like, when you think about streaming, you're essentially doing double duty with your graphics card, right? You're not just playing the game.
Yeah.
You're capturing that gameplay live, encoding it, and then sending it out to the internet for your viewers to enjoy,
Right.
all at the same time.
Multitasking.
Exactly.
Mm.
And so to do that effectively, you need a GPU with a few key ingredients,
Okay.
the secret sauce, if
Yeah.
you will.
Give it to me.
The first is a powerful encoder.
Okay.
Now, the encoder is basically like a separate little brain within the GPU that's specifically dedicated to handling the video encoding process.
Okay.
And newer GPUs, particularly the RTX cards, they come equipped with this thing called NVENC, which is NVIDIA's dedicated encoder. And it's really, really good at what it does.
Nice.
Like way better than just using your CPU for encoding, which was the old way of doing things.
Okay, so it's taking some of the load off.
Exactly. It's like having a sous chef in the kitchen who's just dedicated to prepping your streaming ingredients, while your head chef, which is your GPU, is focused on cooking up those delicious frames for you to enjoy in game.
Ooh, I like that analogy.
So you got your encoder, then you've got your VRAM or video memory, and this is basically like the short-term memory of your graphics card.
Okay.
The more VRAM you have, the more information your GPU can hold on to and access quickly.
Yeah, makes sense.
Especially important for streaming because, like we said before, you're essentially working with two copies of the game footage. One that you're seeing and playing, and then another that's being captured, encoded, and streamed.
Right.
So the higher the resolution you're gaming and streaming at, the more VRAM you're going to want to have on board to avoid any slowdowns or stuttering.
And some of our sources were going head-to-head specifically about the 1080T,
Okay.
saying that it could outperform the 2070 on raw power alone.
Yeah.
Is there any truth to that?
So there's some truth to that for sure. When you look at just pure gaming benchmarks,
Yeah.
the 1080 Ti, it often comes out slightly ahead of the base RTX 2070.
Good.
We're not talking massive differences here,
Right.
but it does tend to edge out a few more frames per second.
It's interesting.
However, and this is a big however, the 2070 has a few tricks up its sleeve that make it a really compelling option for streamers specifically.
Okay. Like what?
Well, for one, it's got that newer RTX architecture, which means it supports all those fancy new features like ray tracing and DLSS,
Right.
which the 1080 does not.
Okay.
But more importantly, for our purposes, the 2070 has that much improved NVENC encoder that we talked about earlier.
Right.
So even if it might be a tiny bit slower in some games when you factor in the streaming performance, the 2070 often ends up delivering a smoother, more consistent experience overall.
Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying is the 1080 Ti has got the brawn, but the 2070 it's got the brains.
Exactly. It's like the difference between a powerful but kind of single-minded athlete versus a skilled and versatile all-rounder.
Yep.
Both can be great in their own right. It just depends what you're looking for.
So if you're all about chasing those absolute highest frame rates and streaming isn't really a priority, then yeah, the 1080 Ti could still be a solid choice, especially if you can find it at a good price these days.
Yeah.
But if you're serious about streaming and you want a GPU that can handle both gaming and encoding without breaking a sweat, the RTX 2070, that seems like the way to go.
Absolutely. And to make things even more interesting, there's also the 2070 Super, which we haven't even talked about yet.
Oh, right. Right. Yeah, our sources didn't really get into that.
Yeah. And I think it's worth mentioning because the 2070 Super is like the bigger, stronger sibling of the base 2070.
Okay.
It's got more of those CUDA cores, which are the little processing units inside the GPU. It's got faster memory speeds, and it often trades blows with the 1080 Ti in terms of raw gaming performance, sometimes even surpassing it.
Wow, okay, so it's kind of like the best of both worlds then.
In many ways, yes, it's got the performance chops to hang with the big boys, and it still has all those RTX goodies like the killer NVENC encoder and support for ray tracing and DLSS.
Okay, so if you're shopping for a new GPU and you see the 2070 Super on the shelf, that's definitely worth a look.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially if you're looking for that sweet spot of performance and streaming capabilities.
All right, so let see if I can summarize all of this because I know we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
We've got the 1080 day, the old but powerful champ still holding its own in the frame rate game.
Yep.
Then we've got the RTX 2070, the clever all-rounder excelling at both gaming and streaming.
Right.
And then we've got the 2070 Super, the overachieving younger sibling. Might just be the best of both worlds.
It's a tough call.
It is, it is.
It's a good time to be a gamer, though.
Right. It really is. And the tech world, it never sits still, does it?
Never a dull moment.
No. So to all our listeners out there who are in the market for a new GTU, do your research, compare those benchmarks, and most importantly, figure out what's going to work best for your specific needs and budget, because who knows what other GPU contenders are waiting just around the corner.
Exactly.
This has been another deep dive. Thanks for being here to break it all down with us.
Happy to be here. Anytime.